Welcome to Building Fortunes Radio. Make sure you check us out at buildingfortunesradio.com. Along with our marketing partners, we're here to help our PM Marketing Network Lead customers build their businesses and make the world a better place. At Building Fortunes, we know how much your business means to you and the people important to you. So spread the word, tell a friend, join our newsletter, and go make a difference in your world. Now on to our show with your host, Peter Mingles.
Hello, everyone. Peter Mingles here. You're listening to us live on Building Fortunes Radio. That's www.buildingfortunesradio.com. For those people unfamiliar with my voice, of course, my name is Peter Mingles. Just a friendly reminder, you can listen to us live on any kind of an internet listening device if you go to buildingfortunesradio.com/live. So at the appropriate time when we're doing a radio show like this one on a Saturday at 8:30 p.m., if you go to buildingfortunesradio.com/live, you'll be able to listen in. On Saturday evenings at 8:30 p.m., I get a chance to share a microphone and this platform with a gentleman, Scott Johnson. And Scott and I met, it's going to be almost 3 years ago in August, as a result of a conversation that I had on the radio show where we were talking about some of the predatory practices associated with the home-based business industry that a lot of people don't pay attention to. And it had to do with the tools scam. And Scott and I had a really great conversation, and that led to me asking him to be a special guest for us on Building Fortunes Radio. And I said to him, Scott, I don't know how many radio shows we'll be able to talk about the tools scam, because, you know, after a while that'll get old. But as we started speaking and doing our radio show, we found that there were lots of other things that he was very knowledgeable about. So we decided that we would do a regular segment, and we have some fun times on this radio show where we show people the potholes and the pitfalls of some of the stuff associated with the MLM world. And some of it's lighthearted, and some of it gets kind of serious sometimes relative to finances. But today, Scott has brought on a very special guest, and this is my first time speaking with him as well, although I watched his videos that he put up on YouTube. And I think this is going to be a really very interesting radio show about some of the darkest sides associated with the MLM world and organizations like this. So I want to, first of all, thank Scott for bringing on first, a couple of weeks ago, Frank Parlato, who was really reporting this story on NXIVM, and now our special guest, and I'll let Scott introduce him because he did all the legwork for him. But Scott, thanks for being here, and thanks for all the things that you do to give us some additional material about some of the things that happen in this world. So back to you.
Peter, thanks for having me again. We do have a real interesting individual with us today. His name is Ben Szemkus, and I'm going to introduce him in just a minute. But I wanted to let people know, especially if they're first-time listeners, I was in Amway for several years, and then I found out about the tool scam. That was back in 2005, actually. And ever since that, I've been trying to educate people about Amway and how it really is a scam, and they really need to go in with their eyes wide open. And I've also discovered some other things, such as most MLMs don't have very much retail sales, which makes them illegal pyramids, and that includes Amway, by the way. And not all MLMs have tool scams, but the ones that do, you need to be aware of it. You need to be aware of the prices that your upline charges for various meetings and books and audio and video recordings and voicemail and website access and et cetera, so that you can determine whether or not they're making their boatload of money from the tools, which is what happens in Amway, versus the Amway business, which is what they're promoting. So it's really important to understand those basic things and go in knowledgeable and asking the right questions and looking for the right things. And to your point, we do go after some of these extreme stories like NXIVM because sometimes it's good to illustrate something with an extreme example, and NXIVM is definitely an extreme example. And for those that are interested in it, it's spelled NXIVM, and the best website I found to find out all about NXIVM is called frankreport.com. Frank Parlato, that we had on a couple weeks ago, has done just a yeoman's job, a tremendous job of documenting all kinds of stories. He's got outstanding sources, and I don't know where he gets all this information, but he's obviously has tons of high-quality sources, and is really into this story, trying to expose this MLM scam. Basically, it's a sex cult, allegedly. I have to throw that in there. But the founder is currently in jail, awaiting his October 1st trial, which will probably be delayed, along with a woman by the name of Allison Mack, who some people might recognize as being in the, I guess it was a Teenage Superman show a few years ago. And Ben helped me out with the name. Smallville, I think, is the name of it. And so she's, kind of like a B or C level movie star, so to speak, celebrity. And then there's other people involved in it too. But if you want to learn more, go to frankreport.com, and there's all kinds of other stuff out there on the internet too. If you just Google NXIVM and let your eyes and fingers do the wandering. But yeah, we use these extreme examples to illustrate something that might look a little more subtle, something that you may not pick up on in a traditional MLM. And so these kinds of things are very good to teach people what to look for. If you teach the extreme, then they might see the subtle a little bit easier. So Ben Szemkus, I think I got that name right, Ben.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember where I found you. I don't recall exactly where I came across you the first time, but I noticed you about a week ago, and you were talking. I believe it was probably on Twitter. I think I was just doing my normal NXIVM searching on Twitter, looking for interesting stories, and I came across yours. And I want you to introduce yourself and basically tell us about your experience with NXIVM several years ago. I think you actually had two experiences, one in 2007 and another one in 2014. And we're just really interested to hear about this because it's got some big names involved in it, particularly your story and your experience in 2007. So I'll just let you rip into it and let you do some talking, and then if you don't mind, me or Peter might break in every once in a while. We'll try not to interrupt you too much, just to clarify something or expand on something, but go right ahead.
All right. First of all, thanks for having me. I appreciate the attention. I'm really in trying to tell about this experience I've received. Some amount of pushback from people, but as you mentioned, I did make a video, and I started with there was a statement that I had written down pretty early on, but it was more, just kind of a memory exercise first of all, and then it had expanded as I started remembering things, as the blocks of memory started to kind of come together. And essentially, it started out because there is all this NXIVM stuff that you see in the news magazines and whatnot, and I'm looking at these pictures, as I stated before. I'm seeing these pictures of Allison Mack. I see these pictures of Keith Rainier, and even these pictures of Stormy Daniels. I'm saying, not just that I'm, familiar with these people or I've seen them before in some other news or something like that, but I was looking at them like, I know these people. I know these people from somewhere. Person to person, face to face. I've seen these people before. And it was driving me kind of crazy a little bit. And looking into things, I had a coworker who had a little bit of an obsession with Smallville, and that had Allison Mack in it. And I thought, well, I'm going to kind of just look into this stuff. I'm going to watch this show and just see, just see what's going on. See if there's anything there that might be a little bit weird, or see if there's anything that would be a linkage with the NXIVM group in general, or just the aspects of a cult in general. And I think I got about 1.5 episodes in, and I said to myself, I've seen all this before. This is something that I've seen. I don't know why I would be watching some goofy Teen Steam WB show, and I started to think about it, and that that's when I started really uncovering, and it was like the only way I could describe it is say, you hear a song from the past, and it reminds you of something, and then all of a sudden you start thinking about what that song had reminded you of, and then it's all these different kind of details come back to me. It's typically how memory works, I imagine, but that's how this one went, and it wasn't until about May 15th that I really came together and remembered a lot of this stuff and put it all down on paper. Actually, I put it down on GitHub, and as I started talking more and more about it, I started remembering more and more people. I started looking at pictures of a lot of these different people who were supposedly involved with NXIVM, and realizing that I was at a party and I was surrounded by these people. And this was back in February of 2007. This is when I was going to Southern Connecticut State University, which is in New Haven, Connecticut. And I ended up going to this party through a friend of a girlfriend. This friend of a girlfriend was approached while she was studying in a Yale library. She did not go to Yale, but she was a Southern student, but she was in the Yale library, which isn't anything odd or anything like that, because that is a public library. And she was approached by three blondes, just three white girls that were blonde, and she was invited to this. How they posed it to her was that it was a women's empowerment movement recruitment party, and it was a mixer. And she thought it was interesting, so she invited my girlfriend at the time. My girlfriend at the time wasn't too excited about it, so she invited me. Apparently it was supposed to be just a female-only thing, but they brought me along, and the reason that I got to stay was that we told them that I was the ride there, which was not true, because I didn't have a car at the time, so. But we used that as a story for me to stay, and that is where during that party, just kind of the warm up of that party was they had put on Smallville, kind of waiting for the first guests to arrive, and that's where I first saw that, and so I completely remember that. And then as I said, the guests arrived, and the guests that they were awaiting was Allison Mack, and she ended up arriving there with Keith Rainier, and I think overall there was a couple of girls in there that were kind of disappointed that the more popular of the stars of that show, it was Kristen Crook, was not showing up, and actually the host said that she's not involved with NXIVM, so she won't be showing up. And Mac had showed up with Rainier, and they hung out for a little bit. I mean, I think there was probably a good 20 minutes before any of the other guests started showing up. And I got to talk with Rainier. I got to talk with Allison Mack for just a second. I didn't talk with her much. And then I talked for a little bit with, I didn't get his name, but he was just this kind of bald man with, he had a clipboard. And he just kind of had a demeanor about him that he was just kind of studying things, so he did have a very scientific demeanor about him, because he seemed all business. He wasn't down for partying or anything like that.
Benjamin, can I ask you, hold on for one second. I just want to give our listening audience a little bit of further backdrop of why this story is so important relative to MLM. For those people who aren't familiar with NXIVM, Keith Rainier right now is in jail as far as what he did, but a lot of people don't know that Keith Rainier kind of got his roots from Amway. He went through the Amway thing, and then he decided that he wanted to build his own network marketing company called Consumers Byline. And